What do the Beatles and Carl Jung have in common? No, it's not a trick question. It's archetypes. And today we're kicking off a brand new series that shows you how archetypes show up everywhere, even in the most famous boy band of all time. Welcome to Archetypes of Success, where we decode the timeless characters that show up in business, in culture, and yeah, in your favorite pop icons. So before we dive into the FAB 4, let's get our archetype primer in place. Archetypes are universal characters, psychological patterns that show up again and again in myth, in marketing, and in people. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst who introduced the concept, believed archetypes live in the collective unconscious. They're baked into our human story. And the coolest part, these aren't just literary devices. Archetypes are real energies that shape how we see ourselves, how others see us, and how we move through the world. There are many archetypes, but today we're looking at just 4. Why? Because they're the perfect match for 4 lads from Liverpool who changed the world. Let's break down the Beatles, archetypally that is, because these 4 weren't just musical geniuses. They each carried a distinct psychological signature that made them who they were together. We start with John Lennon. He was messy, complicated, loud, but he was also a crusader, a truth teller, a man on a mission. He didn't just sing about revolution, he embodied the hero archetype, not always in the noble sense, but in the archetypal sense, driven by inner fire, a call to challenge the system. And like many heroes, he wrestled with darkness. His life was birthed during darkness, World War II, and ended in darkness, murdered at the hands of an obsessed fan. The hero's journey isn't about perfection, it's about transformation. And John made sure the world was watching his. Now Paul, Macca, he's the ultimate everyman. The guy next door with a melody in his pocket and a grin that says, "Don't worry, we can work it out." Paul's the one who brings people together, smooths things over, and writes the love songs and the catchy pop songs. He doesn't rattle cages. He makes love, writes an anthem about it, and sends you home humming. If John talked about peace, Mr. Puppy Dog Eyes Paul could probably broker it over tea. Ringo Starr was never trying to be the front man, and that's exactly why we loved him. He's the Jester, the comic relief in the chaos. Watch any Beatles film and you'll see it. The droll delivery, the timing, the self-deprecating charm. Ringo knew how to keep the vibe light when things got heavy. And let's not forget, the Jester often holds the wisdom everyone else is too uptight to say out loud. And then there's George, the quiet one, the spiritual seeker, the sage. While John fought the system and Paul wrote the hits, George was asking the big questions. He brought Indian music, the Maharishi, into the Beatles' world and into ours. Sages don't shout, they listen, they reflect, they look inward. George's songs were often the most introspective, and in his stillness, he grounded the group. So why does any of this matter beyond being a fun exercise in pop psychology? Because groups, whether they're bands, businesses, or your Friday night friend circle, thrive when we understand the roles we naturally play. When archetypes are in harmony, something magical happens. We're starting the series with the Beatles, but trust me, we're just getting warmed up. Archetypes are everywhere, and I do mean everywhere. So tell me, which Beatle are you most like? John the hero, Paul the everyman, Ringo the Jester, George the sage. Drop your archetype into the comments and hit subscribe so you don't miss the next group breakdown. And remember, you're not just being a character, you're living a story. Make it one worth telling.